$10.6 trillion. That is the number. That is how much the global economy loses in year one. Not a recession, not a correction, a wipeout. Bigger than COVID, bigger than 2008, bigger than anything the modern world has ever seen. And here is the thing that every expert, every analyst, every news channel gets completely wrong. They are all focused on whether China will invade Taiwan. That is the wrong question. The right question is this: what if China does not have to? What if the global economy crashes without a single shot being fired? What if the danger is not the war itself, but the world believing war is inevitable? Stay with me, because what I am about to show you changes everything you think you know about Taiwan. And that is the harsh truth. Most people think Taiwan is a small island with a China problem. They are dangerously wrong. Taiwan is the most economically important piece of land on the surface of the earth. Not oil fields, not gold reserves, not a trade route, a single company, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. One firm produces more than 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductor chips. Not Taiwan, not Asia. One company. Every iPhone you hold, TSMC. Every NVIDIA chip powering artificial intelligence, TSMC. Every advanced weapons system the US military uses, TSMC. The chip inside your car, TSMC. If TSMC stops for 2 weeks, the global technology economy does not slow down. It seizes. Experts describe Taiwan's dominance as a choke point for the global economy, identical to how the Strait of Hormuz controls oil. You have seen what happens when the Strait of Hormuz gets threatened. The Iran war sent global fuel prices through the roof in weeks. Now imagine that, but for every single electronic device on Earth. That is Taiwan. Bloomberg Economics ran the numbers. Here is what a Taiwan conflict looks like in year one. Global GDP. Down $10.6 trillion. 6% gone in 12 months. Taiwan itself. GDP contracts by 40% in 1 year. South Korea, down 23%. Their entire export economy collapses. Japan, down 13.5%. The United States stock market, down 34%. And here is the number that nobody says out loud. China. China loses $10 trillion, roughly half of its annual GDP, 100,000 soldiers dead, and China still imports 60% of its chips from Taiwan. Xi Jinping would be bombing his own supply chain, destroying the very technology his country depends on to compete with America. So ask yourself the question Xi Jinping asks himself every morning: is Taiwan worth that price? The answer is no. And that is exactly where the danger begins. Here is the thing that nobody is saying. The real threat is not invasion. The real threat is the slow squeeze. China does not need to fire a single missile to crash Taiwan's economy. It does not need to land a single soldier. All it needs to do is make the world believe invasion is coming. Because the moment the world believes that, investors pull out of Taiwan, corporations relocate supply chains, TSMC's best engineers emigrate, insurance rates for Taiwan shipments skyrocket, and Taiwan withers. Slowly, quietly, without a war. This strategy even has a name: gray zone warfare. China has been running it for years. Military drills that look like rehearsals, diplomatic pressure that cuts off Taiwan's last allies one by one. Just this April, China pressured 3 African nations to close their airspace to Taiwan's president. Not bombs, just paperwork. And it works. Because Xi Jinping said it himself on New Year's Eve 2026. The reunification of our motherland is unstoppable. He did not say war, he said unstoppable. Those are 2 very different things. So why does 2026 feel different? 3 reasons. And they all converge right now. Reason 1. China's economy is cracking. China set its lowest growth target in decades this year, 4.5 to 5%. Youth unemployment is stuck in the high single digits. The stock market is still 1/3 below its 2007 peak. The property sector is in ruins. History is very clear on this. When authoritarian leaders face domestic pressure, they manufacture external crises. It distracts the population. It rallies nationalism. It justifies tighter control. Taiwan is the most available crisis in Xi Jinping's arsenal. Reason 2. America is distracted. The U.S. military is stretched across the Middle East managing the Iran war. Munitions stockpiles are depleted. And Trump came back from Beijing last week and said he did not want to fight a war 9,500 miles away. Chatham House analysts said it plainly. Ambiguity only works as deterrence when underwritten by credible resolve. Trump's comments have destroyed that credibility. Reason 3. The window is closing. The U.S. CHIPS Act has triggered $450 billion of investment to build chip factories outside Taiwan. By 2032, American semiconductor capacity could be 200% higher. The longer Xi waits, the less Taiwan matters to the global economy. The silicon shield weakens every year. For Xi, the clock is running out. Let me make this real for you. This is not abstract geopolitics. This is your life. Pakistan imports virtually every piece of technology it uses: phones, medical equipment, industrial machinery, defense systems. Every single one of those products depends on Taiwan chips. If Taiwan stops, Pakistan does not get a technology shortage in 6 months. It gets one in 6 weeks. And Pakistan is not alone. The entire developing world runs on Taiwanese silicon because the West can afford to build alternative supply chains. Vietnam can attract TSMC's factories. India can subsidize semiconductor plants. But Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Egypt, they cannot. They will be the last to get chips when supply collapses, and the first to be ignored when the world rebuilds. That is the hidden injustice of the Taiwan crisis that no Western analyst ever discusses. The countries with the least power will pay the highest price. So let me go back to that number. $10.6 trillion. Everyone assumes that number only gets triggered by war. It does not. It gets triggered by fear, by uncertainty, by the slow, grinding realization that the world built its entire technological civilization on a 36,000 square kilometer island that 2 superpowers are fighting over. China probably will not invade Taiwan tomorrow. But China does not need to. Every military drill, every diplomatic threat, every time Trump refuses to say whether America will defend Taiwan, the uncertainty compounds. The supply chains quietly shift. The silicon shield slowly cracks. And the world sleepwalks toward a catastrophe that nobody voted for, nobody planned, and nobody will be able to stop. The question is not whether China invades Taiwan. The question is whether the world wakes up before it does not matter anymore. And that is the harsh truth.